to Pet Chats with the APBC. We are the Association of Pet Behaviour Counsellors, and we're here to teach you how to be the best pet owner or behaviourist in the world. I'm Lauren Hewitt-Watt, and I'm joined by Ingrid today. Hi, Ingrid.
Hello.
Oh, it's so nice to have you here. And can you give us a quick, brief summary of your role in the APBC?
Okay, well, I'm a clinical animal behaviourist. I'm registered with the APBC and the association, I can never remember this acronym, ABTC, Animal Behaviour and Training Council. There you go. I've been a behaviourist for about 14 years now. And over time, I became very interested in separation anxiety. So this is what I specialise in. Mm-hmm. And this is predominantly what I work with nowadays.
I think I remember you being quite early on to specialise in separation, because I think there's more people now that do it. But I think, you started before the pandemic, didn't you?
I started before the pandemic. Yes, I had my first separation client. Must be about over 10 years ago now.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And, I'd read the books and I'd watched the videos, and a lot of it didn't make sense to me. I then had a client and I was struggling. I was really struggling to help the owner and the dog. So I contacted a lady called Milena De Martini, who is basically the world-renowned guru of everything separation anxiety. Lovely, lovely lady. She helped me through this case, and then later I did her course. And I think the main reason I wanted to do separation is that, it's all done remotely.
Yes. Yeah.
So there's no travel involved. So all your time is put into helping the client and the dog, not the traveling from A to B. And also you have much, much, much more contact with the client than you do, I found, in any of the other behaviors that we deal with. And as a result of which you build up a really, really solid relationship with your client, some of whom have actually become friends in the process, which is lovely. So you really get to know people, you get to know the animal, and that, of course, helps you help them.
Yeah, that's lovely to know. It's good for people to know there's different ways of how we work on these behaviour issues. So it's good to know we've got a specialist here. And I think, we're probably going to have some owners who are listening and some behaviourists as well. So I think maybe the first question is, if somebody came to you with their dog and they've got a suspected separation issue, what's the number one thing that you would suggest for them to do straight away to try and start making it better?
Okay, that's easy. The first thing you do with a dog who has separation anxiety is you work out how never to leave the dog alone, ever. Now, depending on the dog, if the dog is happy staying with other people, then that's fine. It doesn't always have to be you. But the thing about separation anxiety is the way you look at it, it's a sort of a phobia, if you like. And with phobias, we all know, and a lot of us have them, that if you're put in a position to face your fear every day or every few days, you don't get better, you get more frightened. So if you think that a dog with separation anxiety is terrified of being left alone, every time they are then left alone, they become more and more frightened of being alone, which has a terrible psychological effect on the dog, and can also have a bad physical effect, because we all know that the brain and the body are connected, and it's stressful, very, very stressful. So the first thing to do is make sure your dog is never left alone. Get those stress levels down. So then you can start to work on trying to resolve the problem.
Brilliant.
Yeah, does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And with this, I assume that you would get a specialist or a behaviourist in kind of as soon as possible. Would they be able to, like, I suppose, do you find that there's different dogs that have different types of separation issues, or do you find that you see the same issues come up over and over again when it comes to these dogs?
The thing about separation anxiety is there is no hard and fast rule for anything. There is no rule of thumb. You've got to be very careful. In the old days, we would say, oh, the dog has mild separation or severe separation. You can't say that because we don't know what's going on in the dog's brain. And different dogs will behave differently given their state of anxiety. So a nice analogy I always think is if you imagine two people who are terrified of spiders. One person will see a spider and they will scream the house down and run away. The other person will see the spider and they will freeze and go completely silent. But underneath, the terror is exactly the same. So because we don't know that, we just assume that the dog is in a state of anxiety, a state of stress, and we work from that. In terms of breed, no such thing. There are no breeds that are more prone to it than others. We often hear, oh, this dog is more prone to separation anxiety. It's not true. Any dog can have separation anxiety. It does not relate to breed. It does not relate to age. I've worked with some puppies who are the age of sort of 12 weeks have separation anxiety. And it has nothing to do with neuter status either. Dogs who don't have separation anxiety can develop it later in life due to change in circumstances. There's all sorts of things that can affect it. So it covers the whole spectrum. It really, really doesn't matter. One thing, going back to what you should do about your dog, initially is the other thing that's really important, and I think this relates to all behavior issues, is make sure your dog is healthy.
Yes, that's so true.
Always have a medical checkup with your vet, because if you're not feeling well, then you're going to be that much more sensitive. You don't want to be left alone.
Yeah, you're feeling more vulnerable, aren't you?
You're feeling more vulnerable. So that is very, very important. And that is what we always do, make sure that the dog is healthy. And sometimes once that has been sorted, all the anxiety goes away.
It's so interesting, isn't it?
Yeah. It really, or it improves. Because the other thing to remember is if you're going to do a program with a behaviourist to try and sort out the separation anxiety, a dog who is ill cannot learn. A human who is ill cannot learn. So in order to progress and resolve the issue, they've also got to be healthy. So the two go very, very closely together.
And does that link, would you say that links to not just being healthy, vet checked healthy, but would you say, getting the right level of exercise and the right nutrition and all of that as well?
Absolutely, absolutely. The right nutrition, obviously very important for all health aspects, but also the right amount of exercise for the breed and for the age of the dog. And most importantly, which of course so many people forget, people worry about the physical health of their animal. Of course we do. But they forget that the dog's got a brain.
Yeah.
And that brain needs to be exercised. So enrichment, games, training, puzzle toys, none of which take a lot of time.
No.
But you will have a happier, a more content dog And therefore, if the dog does have separation anxiety, it's going to be that much easier to resolve because you're not battling about a very, very bored dog whose only outlet are the owners.
Yeah,
and if the owners are not there, then there is a caveat to that, which is giving your dog enrichment when you leave is not going to resolve the issue.
It's more around, you're sort of saying in general, aren't you?
It's the whole thing. It's the holistic.
Yeah,
it's the holistic approach. Because a lot of people, and I know there is some stuff out there on the internet, is, leave your dog with a Kong or a puzzle toy, something to amuse them. Yeah, great. But if you're planning to leave your dog for 4 hours, for example, how much food? You're going to have a very fat dog at the end of it. And I've seen dogs eat because people think an anxious dog won't eat. That's not true. I've seen dogs eat and then panic.
Yeah.
So as soon as they finish that Kong or whatever it is, then they go into full-blown panics. And I've actually seen dogs eat and panic at the same time.
I've seen it. So they're kind of panicking, eating, like they're...
Yeah, or they're eating with a really hard mouth and they're whining at the same time and their body is really stiff. So using that to resolve the issue is not going to work. But using enrichment to give your dog a happy, well-rounded life is brilliant.
Okay, that's great. I think that's really useful for owners to know, and also behaviourists as well, to know that you're on the right track of getting all of that in place. And I think, if you've got somebody who wants to seek out a behaviourist, what do you wish owners would know before going to a behaviourist for separation issues?
I think what it is that obviously if a dog is barking, howling, destroying the house, which I must say is very, very rare. Hardly ever happens. But we think that if a dog's not barking or howling, then they're okay. Not true. As I said, think of the spider analogy that I said before. However, we think that barking and howling is the most common behavior of distress when a dog's alone, but is that not because it's the one we notice?
It's
or the neighbours report. I've worked with several dogs who are literally completely silent, and there was one dog I worked with a few years ago, lovely little border terrier, who used to literally stand at the front door with his nose to the bottom of the door, frozen solid for hours, and he wouldn't move. Now, luckily, these owners had a camera, and they were quite savvy about dog behavior, so they realized something was going on. Nowadays, he snoozes on the sofa, and he's perfectly happy. And dogs who are sort of sitting, watching out the window the whole time, again, is, that is not a happy dog. So my recommendation would be use a camera. They're not expensive to buy, or use Zoom. Everybody has Zoom now. It was quite funny in the old days when I talked to people, I had to explain what Zoom was. Now everybody knows.
Everyone knows, yeah.
So set your iPad, laptop, whatever in your house, go out, watch your dog, go away from the house, watch your dog, see what they do. So things like pacing, hypervigilance, which is watching the whole time, frozen body postures, apart from the howling and all of that stuff. Also watch your dog when you come home. Is the dog overexcited? Is the dog suddenly running to the water bowl? Suddenly going to eat that Kong that you left for them? these are all indications that something is not right. Yeah, I mean, we love it when our dogs are bouncing around us, greeting us,
Yeah.
but that's not necessarily a good sign. I
Mhm.
did have a client years ago who, when we finished, he said, Ingrid, I have one complaint.
Mm.
And I went, oh gosh, what have I
Yeah.
done? And he went, now when I come home, all my dog does is open one eye, look at me,
Oh,
and go back to sleep.
yeah.
And I went,
Yeah,
fantastic.
great.
We've sorted it. That's lovely.
Oh,
Because the dog is feeling independent enough not to panic.
yeah. And not to be waiting, like when are you coming home? It's, oh, you're home. Great. I can go
It's,
back to sleep.
oh, hi, how are you? Yeah, fine. I'll carry on doing what I was doing.
Great. Okay.
So that is really what you're looking for
Yeah.
in
And
the dog.
and with getting a behaviorist, you've said kind of, is that, would you ask people to film their dogs potentially before they contact a behaviorist? Or like, would that be something that you would say for people to go and do, and then they can speak to the behaviorist about their dog that way? Or
It's
would you think it's better to get the behaviorist first to guide them?
um having a video to watch
Mhm.
can be great
Mhm.
as long as the video covers most of the house, because otherwise you spend your time watching an empty room when the dog's panicking in the kitchen. The way I work is, yes, I will look at videos, but I want to see for myself,
Mm.
because you're not always getting the best lighting, the best angle. So when I start working with a client, we do an assessment, which is basically they leave the house, whoever lives in the house,
Mm.
leaves the house as if there was no problem at all. Put your shoes on, put your coat on, pick up your bag, pick up your keys, leave the house. I want to see how they're relating to
Uh,
the dog when they leave.
okay.
And then again, I tell them to move away, go 2 or 3 houses down, not too far,
Mm.
just so the dog knows they're away.
Mm.
And then watch the dog. So, generally speaking, I will use as many devices as they
That's
have so that I can have iPads and laptops and phones and whatever in as many places as possible, so I can then really, really, really watch the dog.
Mm.
And then I record the session, and then we can look at it afterwards, so I can point out to them some of the small behavioral symptoms, if you like, that your layperson won't necessarily have recognized
Okay.
as being anxiety. Yeah, because obviously we're trained to see the tiniest little things. Um, and often when you're going through the videos, the client will go, oh, I never noticed that. Or, oh, I didn't realize that was, but he's wagging his tail.
Yeah.
No, wagging your tail is not always a sign of happiness.
Mm.
We know this. And look at his ears. What are his ears doing? His ears are alert the whole time, which means he's not relaxed.
Mm.
So, although videos are useful, I like to see for myself. And with some people, because they're not sure and what they've told me, I'm not sure, we arrange an assessment. And there have been occasions when I've got, nah, your dog hasn't got separation
Yeah.
anxiety. Your dog is actually bored, and that's why he's picking up the remote control and ripping up the cushions and, doing all that sort of thing. So actually what you need to do is make sure your dog has more exercise training and enrichment.
Okay.
So it's a bit of it, no, see for yourself,
You want
as
to
we would do with any other case.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
And in terms of, I mean, you probably get this question all the time, but how long would you say is an amount of time that people would expect to potentially be working with you or a behaviorist on separation?
That is the question that
Yeah.
every single person who comes to me asks.
And the
And
hardest question to probably answer, isn't it? Yeah.
And my answer is, you're going to need to go and ask the dog.
Yeah.
Because I have no idea. And I think that applies to all behavior issues. Some dogs will resolve in a few months. Other dogs can take 2 years, even more. What I do say, however, is there is no quick fix.
Yeah.
This takes time, it takes work. And in general, you are going to be looking at a few months minimum.
Yeah. Okay.
And then we take it from there.
Yeah.
But you are going to have to plan your life around doing this for several months.
It's important people know that, I think, that people know before they go in. It's not, it's not a case of how can I manage it or do a quick fix. It's difficult sometimes. And sometimes there might be, I'm sure sometimes there might be times, like you said, you'll look at a dog and be like, I don't think this is anxiety. So here's your quick fix, go and give them more exercise.
But that's rare.
Yeah.
I mean, I think you're absolutely right. And what sometimes happens is that people know their dog's got separation, and this is what happened to a lot of the COVID puppies, lockdown puppies, is that because the person's lifestyle is fine managing not leaving the dog at home alone, and then their lifestyle changes. So suddenly their company says, you've got to come into the office 2 days a week or 3 days a week. And then you get the phone call or the email saying, I've got to go to work in 2 weeks' time and my dog has separation anxiety. Please, can you help me fix it? And you feel for those people.
Yeah.
But what can you do? It's not going to get fixed. So the only solution in that respect is to organize friends, family, it takes a village, daycare, whatever it is, to come and stay with your dog whilst you're away from them. And then, of course, start working on a program. Because, unfortunately, again, like every other behavior issue, it doesn't fix itself.
Yeah. And the longer you leave it, it will just become more and more entrenched. So even, I always try and say to people, even if you've left it for a certain amount of time, you need to work on it now. It doesn't matter how long it's been, because the longer you leave it, the more and more and more entrenched it will start. So just start as soon as you can to try and get there.
Absolutely. And with young dogs, never think they'll grow out of it.
Yes. Yeah.
Because they won't. Sometimes with clients, when they've got a dog who is about to hit adolescence, if they can make sure that the dog is not going to be left alone, depending on the breed, depending on their lifestyle, etc., I sometimes say, leave it a few months, because we all know adolescent dogs are difficult to work with because their hormones are going up and down. They're being horrible teenagers. I said, use your time concentrating on good training, good enrichment, getting your ducks in a row so the dog isn't left alone. And when they come out of the other side of adolescence, they are more settled as dogs.
Yeah.
And then they're going to be responding. Obviously, it doesn't always happen, and sometimes you have to work with it, but you've always got to bear that in mind. And the same thing is with puppies. I would say puppies who have separation anxiety, and this can happen as early as, 8, 9, 10 weeks. We think there may be a genetic link there somewhere.
Yeah.
Then you start as quickly as possible, because puppies' brains are plastic and much easier to mold and much easier to teach. So then you start absolutely head on.
Yeah. Brilliant.
So that's really important.
And I think you kind of touched on this earlier, but when you're working with a dog, I think everyone's kind of thought is that you work to the dog being totally asleep, they don't care when you walk in. Is that kind of the goal for every dog, or do different dogs have different goal? Like, is it basically, do you always work until they're completely unbothered, or what level do you get to?
You work until the dog is relaxed and not anxious.
Okay.
And I sometimes say to my clients, I don't care if the dog is swinging from the chandelier, as long as he's swinging from the chandelier because he's having fun.
Yes.
Not
okay.
because he's anxious.
Okay.
And also, when you leave a dog for several hours, they're not going to be comatose.
No,
the whole time. They may get up and have a sniff at the front door. They may go and have a drink of water, go look out of the window. Yeah. And of course, there will be the occasions when they'll hear next door's dog barking, or Mr. Amazon will ring the doorbell, and the dogs will respond.
Yes.
And of course, one of the measurements of anxiety is, the dog's barking its head off at the delivery, but how long then does the dog take to calm down and carry on doing whatever it was doing, which is usually napping? Because an anxious dog that will be enough to build and build and build and build.
And then it just won't stop.
Whereas once the delivery man's gone, they go, oh, well, I'm good. I chased them away. Right, we're safe now. I can go back and have a snooze.
Yeah.
So that is a really, really important criteria, because it's part of life. If you're going to be away for several hours, then somebody's bound to ring the doorbell, or some dog is going to start barking. Something is going to happen in the environment. So it is really important to make sure that the dog is relaxed and not anxious, regardless of what they're doing.
That's really useful.
Destroying the house, because they may then, and this is one of the sometimes quite funny things that happen, especially with younger dogs, is that once they've got over their separation anxiety and they're relaxed, then the naughtiness comes out.
Yeah, okay.
Then it's, oh, what is on the kitchen counter that I can get? Oh, look, they left a box here. I think I'll rip it up. I know what that is. That's the remote control. I think I'll chew it. But that's a dog being playful.
Yeah.
And then you think of ways to make sure that dog may have something to do.
I always say their recall can sometimes get worse, because if you've got a dog that's been really attached to their owner, really anxious about not being away from them, and then they learn to be a bit more independent, you sometimes see that their recall is not as good. I'm like, it's fine. Absolutely. It's quite an easy fix, so don't worry. But it's so funny to
absolutely. And all the sort of normal doggy behaviors start to come out because the dog's not anxious anymore.
Yeah.
So great. We love naughty dogs who had separation anxiety, because we know we've sorted the problem out. And as you say, those are easy to fix.
Yeah.
They're not a problem.
Yeah, that's really good. I think, have you got anything else that you wanted to add about separation, just as we start to wrap it up? Because you've shared so much that, I think people are going to be happy with this.
I think the takeaways may be never leave your dog alone. Ever. Whilst you're working on the program. It's really, really important. Otherwise, you'll just take one step forward and two steps back. So set up your network. It takes a village.
Okay.
2 is realize that it is going to take a long time. And importantly, things are going to go up and down. Nothing ever progresses in a straight line. So be prepared for times when you might have a setback or two. That's fine. The dog is just giving us information, saying, I'm not ready to move to that stage yet. I need to go back and revise what we've already learned. 3, I think, is be prepared that you're going to be putting quite a lot of hours and hard work into this. So make sure that you can cope with this. And also, and I think this is really, really important, don't think about your end goal.
Ah, okay.
Say your end goal is 4 hours. Don't think about your end goal. Every little success,
yes,
is a success. Celebrate the successes. So I once read a quote, which I'll paraphrase, which is, more people give up because when they're doing something, because they're only looking at the end goal. In other words, how far they've got to go rather than how far they've already come.
Mm-hmm.
Gandhi said, a journey of 1,000 miles starts with one step.
Okay. That's brilliant.
If you keep thinking, oh my goodness, I've got to walk 1,000 miles, I'm never going to make it. But if after every step you go, yay, I've done one step.
Yeah.
So a dog with separation anxiety, when that dog has been alone for 10 seconds,
yeah,
that's amazing.
Yeah.
That is absolutely amazing, because we have to work in teeny, weeny, weeny little increments.
Mm-hmm.
So think about this. Think about the fact that a lot of separation issues are resolvable. There are no guarantees, but the work you put in will hopefully pay off.
Okay.
And also that it's affecting your life, obviously, because you can't leave the dog alone. But you love your dog. Think of the amount of stress that this poor animal is under every time you leave the house. Mm-hmm. And do something about it so that you end up with a happy, cheery dog who is perfectly happy for you to go to the movies or to go out for dinner or to go out with your friends and goes, yeah, do what you like. I'm perfectly happy at home.
Yeah.
So look at the whole thing, but importantly, think to yourself, yes, there will be some disappointments along the way, but pull your socks up and we'll keep going and take every single step. And importantly, go celebrate.
Yes, that's nice.
Have a drink.
Yeah.
Open a bottle of Prosecco.
Yes.
You know, you've worked hard and your dog is getting better, so it pays off. We don't pat ourselves on the back enough.
No.
You know,
and you really need to in this.
Really important to do that. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. And then, of course, if you have got a dog with separation anxiety, don't wait. Find a qualified behaviourist who specializes in separation. Mm-hmm. Because, again, the way we work with separation is not like we work with any other behavior.
No.
It's a specialist field. And if you're ill and you go to the doc will send you to see a specialist. So why not do the same for your dog?
That's so true.
Yeah. Mm. And then everybody will be happy. Mm-hmm. We hope.
Yeah. Oh, that's brilliant. That was amazing recap of everything. I think that's, hopefully whoever's watched this has come away with like notes and has got things that they can go and apply, or if they're a behaviorist, they, you've said a lot of things. Even, I work with separation, even some of the things you've said, I've been like, oh, that's such a good way of putting it. Like that's, it's amazing. So, and where can people find you if they want to work with you?
If they want to work with me, they can go to my website, which is www.petswithproblems.co.uk. There's a contact form on the website they can fill out and send it to me. And I will try and help them as much as I can. If I'm not in a position to help them, because my books are full for whatever reason, at least then I can refer them to people I know specialize in this area who are qualified behaviorists and they will be able, somebody out there will be able to help them.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Well, that's great. Well, thank you so much for coming on, Ingrid. It's been amazing to have you on. And
my pleasure.
Yeah. And for anyone else watching, we will see you in the next session. Bye.
Bye.